Welcome to the Super Region 2 playoff podcast for round 2 of the Division 2 football playoffs. I'm your host, Coach Poe, Justin Polizzi. And like last week, I have the pleasure of being joined by D2 KFerg, Chris Ferguson, and Ryan Gladwin, the SAC columnist for D2Football.com. Guys, welcome. Fantastic week of football behind us. Super excited.
Yeah, I mean, just all the things that happened. Some of the most exciting things that happened over the weekend was in this super region.
Absolutely.
It really was. It really was, guys. And I think we kind of thought internally, I know the three of us kind of talked, last week before the show actually went online. Hey, this has the potential to shape up to be a really exciting week of football. And I think it lived up to those expectations. You look here on the screen, Benedict beats Wingate on the last second play. We'll talk about that. Newberry survives at home against a hungry Kentucky State team. The shootout that was between Albany State and Valdosta, phenomenal football game. And then West Florida putting it away late against North Greenville. 4 fantastic football games that really kind of summed up Super Region 2, guys.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead, Chris.
No, I was going to say, I think that, when you look at, this grid, right, you're always wondering what's the team that's going to get upset. And trying to find that is always a little bit of a challenge. So, how it all turned out, it makes this super region just that much more exciting.
It does. It does. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Every time you look at those brackets, at least I do the same thing. I look at them and say, hey, who's going to be the upset this week? Who's going to knock somebody off that maybe wasn't expected to be there? And I think the game that we all talked about last week was Valdosta State, Albany State, right? Is it a knockoff if Valdosta State were to win that football game? I mean, they're arguably the hottest team in the super region, probably in the country at this point in time. Is that going to be the team? Just what is it going to be? And I think we had all of our eyes on that, and maybe not that game that's right there above it that we're going to talk about first, guys. Benedict upsetting number 16 Wingate, who was seeded 4th in the region, 25-24. Chris, give us the lowdown on this one, buddy.
Well, I tell you, Wingate got the ball first and promptly fumbled it away. And Benedict actually had the opportunity to score first, but wasn't able to convert a field goal because that fumble was it was inside the 25.
Yeah.
And then Wingate decides to start pouring it on, especially with Elijah Holmes, 2 touchdown passes to Jalen Himes. And it took a little while for Benedict to get going. I mean, not only did you have 2 touchdowns, but also a field goal in the first half and another field goal attempt that they could have added more points and said, oh man, Benedict hadn't scored at that point. Comes out in the second half, and lo and behold, here comes Wingate again, scoring again, and it's 24-0. Not far into the third quarter. And so it's just man, we all picked Wingate to win this game. And I mean, it's looking like a pretty easy pick. But, here comes Benedict, because Benedict just finds ways to make this real interesting. And you talk about, turnovers and leading to some easy score for Darius Ocean, quarterback, passing the ball. And then, then another quarterback comes in and has some success, and also I think it was like a kickoff. It was a field goal attempt that I believe was blocked and returned for a really long distance. That set Benedict up to score. So special teams really kicked in as well for them, defense, special teams, and offense. And so, what you kind of had was Benedict crawling back into this game, crawling back in, and then 4 minutes out they score. So the Wingate gets stopped. They get the ball back, and they've got to go like 86 yards to score to win this game. And then probably one of the most incredible plays that you can think of occurs.
Yeah.
So roll that beautiful footage.
Oh, baby, here we go.
Can they shut down the final play? Jensen, one, is going to have to get it off and then complete the pass. It's been a little wild here in the last couple of plays. He'll just dump it down to Simmons. Simmons pump fakes. Now he'll throw it all the way to the other side of the field. There's room down the sideline. Boss chasing him down. Brandon Perry trying to get to it. Oh my goodness. Benedict has scored. Benedict has scored. Holy cow.
Unbelievable play, Chris. Absolutely unbelievable. Absolute heartbreak if you're Wingate. But it just caps that win right there for Benedict, that huge comeback win that you just talked about. Ryan, as you watch that play, as a guy that covers the sack and gets to see Wingate week in and week out, how hard is it for you to watch that play?
I mean, it was just, made you physically ill almost. I mean, and there was a multiple of things. One thing I didn't notice when I saw it the first, 45 times was when they throw the ball to the receiver there at the beginning, there's nobody within 10 yards of him, which is the first thing I noticed. It's like, why is that dude over there just like, planting flowers and, making a sandwich? I mean, he's wide open. Yeah. And then he launches an absolute dart across the field, and there's nobody over there either. And then this guy runs probably faster than he's ever run in his entire life. And, Perry and the other defensive back, Perry had a chance to make the play. And I don't know. I don't want to ever dog on the kid, but that's one of those, like, listen, if you got to grab the face mask, horse collar, whatever you got to do, you have to make sure he does not get into the end zone.
Yeah.
And that he gets past it and scores. And you could hear a cricket pass gas. It was so quiet on that sideline.
Oh, I can only imagine. And to your point, the first time I watched it, okay, the first pass happens, you're sitting soft, you're going to rally up, you're going to make a tackle. Well, then they throw back across the field and he gets outside, which is like a huge no-no. But then I almost thought for a second that I think it was number 4, the backside corner, had a chance to run
Perry.
down. I thought he had a chance to run down. He had the angle on him. All he had to do was just get him out of bounds.
Push him out of bounds.
And you
whatever you have to do. Face mask, horse collar. Even if you commit a penalty right there, you're still. I don't know where it would have been at. You still would have forced Benedict to have to make one more play.
Yeah, untimed down. Yep.
Yeah, would have been an untimed down. You would have forced Benedict to have to make one more play. In that smallest space, you feel like you kind of would have liked Wingate's defense in that sort of space. But at that point, that it just seemed like one of those where they do a play action. You got some tight end sitting there, tying his shoes in the end zone wide open.
Well, and to that point, I think, two things that I take away from this game, guys. One was, it was just the momentum that Benedict had and the way they just kept plugging away, right? They're down at one point 24-0 it was, and they just kind of hung around and kept going. And I feel like every time we talk about a Wingate loss, there's special teams involved, right? And there's whether it's missing a field goal or getting a field goal blocked, and it's those extra points that are really the difference in the ball game, right? Like Chris, you mentioned they missed a field goal. They make that field goal earlier. That play doesn't matter because it's now 27-25, right? Like, and we've seen it that in their loss to Carson Newman last year, when they lose games, they miss kicks, and special teams tends to be their Achilles heel as of late when you start talking about Wingate losing football games. And And this was just kind of another one of those games.
Well, in the Carson Newman loss last year also, not only did they have, I know, at least one missed field goal, but really what really got Carson Newman going in that game was a botch snap or something like that on a field goal that Major Williams, who's now in the CFL, took all the way back for 2 points. Because I always remember it because him and the other DB were high-fiving like 10 yards out. And my thought was, man, if Coach Sparks were still here, somebody would have gotten a free enema that day. But, it seems like, man, when Wingate finds a way to lose a game, it's got to be, and as a Bills fan, I see this a lot. It's got to be the most gut-wrenching way to lose a game.
Absolutely.
And it's almost, and you guys have talked about this before, and we've all talked about it. It's almost like sometimes the stepping on the throat that needs to happen at a certain point just doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because when you look at the drive chart, like it's telling after they scored that touchdown and it felt like they got comfortable 24-0, right?
Yeah.
It was Wingate fumble at the Benedict 7. Wingate interception at the Benedict 7. Wingate got intercepted at the 45. They punted. They had another field goal attempt in the fourth quarter. Didn't
there
make
we go. Yeah.
Another one in the fourth, salted away. So Benedict scored after that drive. A punt, and a punt.
Yeah. Well, that'll do it for you right there.
Yeah.
Turnovers
and just
teams.
And I just hate it. I mean, being the sack guy, obviously. But, especially like it seems like Caleb, the kicker for Wingate, it was just not his day. And I just hate it for him. I mean, the kid does have the best last name amongst all kickers in Division II with Bone Steel. But man, it was just one thing, like everything that it took to go Benedict's way for them to get back into this game hit. I mean, just everything.
And to that, I think they got a lot of momentum, right? They can build on this game. They could take what they got, for all intents and purposes, they were down, they were out, it was over, and they come back and win, and they get a little bit of momentum. And one thing I want you guys to hear is the post-game press conference. And I want our people to hear the post-game press conference. And you just hear about how they just are gritty and a fighting team. We're gonna go over to the press conference and we'll be back here in a minute, and we'll talk a little bit more about the momentum that's going to carry into this week and this week's matchup.
With you, I mean, it looks scary there, let's be honest, to getting close to the end of the game. But then what did you like about your team never giving up, showing fight to win it at the buzzer the way they did?
That's what we do every day. Every day at practice, I got to get on them because they play until the last play of practice, and they never give up. And all season, we've been in games like this. We've had to come back. But the one thing about them is that they believe in each other, and they do not give up. They're going to fight if there's 1 second left on the clock, and it showed today.
So how are you going to get them to kind of come back down to earth after a crazy play like that to move on further into this playoff push?
We've had some games that, one of the first ones when we played Albany the first time, we beat Edward Waters. We rode on the high and got beat. And so, again, everything this season, and God is so good because he's done so many things to prepare these young men for the ups and the downs. But the one thing is if they have faith and they keep believing in each other, we as a team, and that's, on top of, we set a vision a long time ago, and our vision was just work together and great things are going to happen. And, that's what's happening.
Wow. You talk about momentum, and Chris, how much do you think this will help them as they go into this next round of the playoffs, beating a tough team like Wingate on the road? How much is that going to help them as they go forward?
I mean, they're going to need it because now they got to play a team they've already played twice, and you would think that, wow, you got to play a team 3 times in a row, and you got to play 60 minutes against Benedict. I mean, they've shown time and time again that they can win in so many different ways, and just when you think you figured out, okay, they've won all these different ways, they have managed to top all of that in this game. And so this is a team that just doesn't quit. And so, if you're their opponent in the second round, Albany, you're gonna have to really you can't come into the game flat.
No.
So
especially against a team that, and I just noticed this stat, a team that scored 18 points in the fourth quarter despite having the ball almost 4.5 minutes less than their opponent.
Yep.
Wow.
They had the ball 5 minutes and 13 seconds in the fourth quarter.
Unbelievable. And scored 14 points with it. Or 18. What'd you say it was, Ryan?
Yeah, 18.
18.
Because it was 24. Let me double check. It was 24-7 at the end of the third quarter because I believe it's Malachi Jones scored with 103. And then,
Well, either way, great win for Benedict and moves them on. And Chris, you just talked about it. The team they're going to play next week, Albany State, at home beats Valdosta 35-30. They were down for most of this game or a good portion of this game and had to come back to win that one as well. Chris, give us the Albany State, the primer on this one. Albany State 35, Valdosta 30 in the opening round of the playoffs.
Well, let's talk about this then. So, Albany, came out the gate against, we said it was a red hot Valdosta team, and they kind of had a little bit of adjustment period in this game. It felt like because they got 3 points, and then Valdosta gets a touchdown, and then Albany comes back and they get they got a was it field goal? No, another touchdown. So it was like 14-7. And what I kind of noticed early in the game was it seemed like Valdosta was like they committed to putting a lot of pressure on Isaiah Knowles to try to disrupt him. And they were getting a lot of shots on him in the first half of the game. Now, the one thing that kind of noticed about Knowles is that he started to adjust by running a lot more than what we were accustomed to seeing from him. To like they had the quick game, they used Tiant Weish as needed, and the other running back who forgive me, his name escapes me, but they were content with trying to counter that aggressive rush by the short pass play and running the ball and having quite a bit of success. But as it kept going on, I mean, Valdosta has a lot of speed when you talk about like Council Allen, for example, and their running backs. I mean, when they break free, they're hard to catch. And you saw some of that in that first half. And so, you go into halftime, Valdosta's up only by like 2. They come out in third and they stretch that lead out to 30 to 21. And you're like, how is Albany going to respond? And I tell you, I think when I watched the highlights, I said, man, this is why Valdosta is 6-4 because it's like they started to come apart. I mean, they drove the ball and then they would fumble the ball away and give it away. And when they had opportunities in the red zone, they just sort of they just fell apart. And then after Albany scored, it was still like 8 minutes left in the game. And they had a drive that we would see that was a championship type drive, right? That was one of those like Harding keep away drives. Harding is, but Albany did it with a combination of, some of the shorter passes, the running game, to play keep away for basically the rest of the game. And Valdosta had one opportunity after Albany scored. They didn't do anything with it, and they didn't see that ball again. And so, definitely kudos, to Albany, but, really Quinn Gray, who was the head coach and also the offensive coordinator, had a really good game plan. And, the one thing I would say from an HBCU perspective, like sometimes the coaches, they don't adjust very well because either and I think some of that tends to be like the personnel might be a little limited. So they're just kind of stuck like, this is what we're going to do because everything else, it isn't going to really work. But with Isaiah Knowles and his ability to improvise in this game, I mean, that was a huge difference maker for Albany. And then their defense and creating turnovers. Valdosta had opportunities for their own turnovers, especially like interceptions, but they just couldn't hold on to the ball. So it just felt like it was just Albany's day.
Yeah. And to that point, I think when they were up 30, when Valdosta was up 30-21 there, you're kind of thinking, okay, here we go. They're hot. And that was a huge answer for Albany State in there to answer and take that ball and not give it back. Ryan, one of the things that stands out to me when I looked at this game, and you can see it here on the box, 283 yards of offense for Valdosta. That's not very normal. That's not a typical stat line you see from the Blazers. What was your takeaway from Valdosta, seeing them ahead early and then just never really getting that ball back there towards the end to try to have a shot to come back and win it?
I mean, it really felt like after they got that kick return that put them up 9, I mean, it was two different ball teams at that point. I mean, the Golden Ram defense just put the clamps, and it seemed like it was an entirely different team on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, they just couldn't get anything going. Nothing was working right. I mean, and I agree with KFerg. There were times watching that first half, it's like, okay, I don't know how this Valdosta team went 6-4. And then there was times in the second half, it's like, okay, yeah, I see, I see it. Like, and there was just different, the way momentum was going, and it just kind of always seemed, at least to me, when Knowles and them drove down the field, I think it was with about 3, maybe 4 minutes to go in the third quarter, and when they scored to make it a 2-point game, I was sitting there thinking when I was watching the replay of it, I was like, okay, Albany's going to make a play at some point, and then their defense is going to be like, all right, we've had enough of this nonsense. Yeah. I mean, because in the first half, I mean, it was a track meet. I mean, I don't know what you guys thought, but I initially thought, okay, we're looking at one of those like the Valdosta Carson Newman games in the playoffs years ago when it was like 61-59. It was like, did the defensive coordinators like not get on the bus or what's going on?
Defense is optional.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it also the biggest takeaway from me watching this game was, and I don't think he's going to win the Harlan Hill or anything, but I think that let me double check that I get his first name right, because I hate doing this. I think Isaiah Knowles might be the best quarterback I've seen Albany State have since I've been watching D2 football. And that might be a hot take for folks that follow HBCU stuff, but that dude's a baller. I mean, and he just makes plays after play. And if he makes a bad play, it doesn't carry into the next drive. I mean, he's, in my opinion, the best quarterback I've seen Albany have in 15 years of watching D2 football. I mean, and he just kept going and going, and it was a great game. It made me think, well, that was a dumb pick. But then again, at the same time, I mean, one of us said that the Benedict Wingate game was going to be the best game of the weekend, and for about the first 30 minutes, it was not.
Well, I think you felt like whoever had the ball last was going to win this ball game.
Yes, absolutely.
And when you watched it early, and that's kind of what happened there. Albany just didn't give the football back, but yeah, and so Albany sets themselves up with a third rematch against Benedict, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, guys. But it's never easy to beat somebody twice in the season, let alone 3 times in the season. So that'll be
especially
to,
3 times in what, like 6 weeks or something crazy like that.
It's one of those things where you're like, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, if you play somebody 10 times, they're gonna probably like win at least 1 or 2. Well, now Benedict gets opportunity to prove exactly that theory.
yeah,
Yes.
100%. 100%. All right, guys, moving on. We've got Newberry, the number 3 seed in the region, taking on Kentucky State. And Newberry 45-24 victory here, guys, at home. Ryan, I know you watched this one. What was your impression of the Wolves as they played Kentucky State?
Well, I was impressed that they didn't find a way to let Kentucky State come back so that they could score with less than 2 minutes to go. That was one of my big takeaways because Coach Knight and the boys like to do that, have a little drama.
Yeah,
I was very impressed with what I saw from Newberry, especially after the first quarter. So the first quarter, second offensive play, Reed Sharpia hits on a 35-yard touchdown. It was a 2-play, 75-yard drive. And, just like that, not a minute and 1 second into the game, Kentucky State's already down 7. Newberry went for 2, which I kind of always like going for 2 the first one of the game. Kentucky State, goes down, gets a field goal, and then Newberry bounces back with a touchdown. Kentucky State answers again. And so at the end of the first quarter, you kind of got the vibe, say, hey, this is maybe going to be one of those back and forth games all day long. But really in the second quarter, Newberry just kind of took things on a stranglehold. And, and I obviously don't mean this disrespectfully, but really at that point, I never felt like the game was really up in the air. Even when Kentucky State caused turnovers on back-to-back possessions and got it within 7, they never had the ball with the chance to tie or take the lead after Newberry went up 15-10, or after they scored to make it a 15-10 game.
Yeah.
And so that it was just one of those games, like, I never felt like Newberry was really in trouble of losing, even though they made some uncharacteristic mistakes in the third quarter that allowed Kentucky State to score, I believe, 2 touchdowns to make it a 7-point game. Reed Sharpia was solid. I was a little bit concerned in the third quarter about Chad Elzey at Kentucky State getting the end zone a couple times and how quickly they answered to Newberry's mistakes. I joked with somebody, maybe, because Newberry turns the ball over so little, and maybe their defense, almost didn't believe the call to go back in the game, that kind of deal. But no, it was a very impressive win in my opinion, because, like we had said, Newberry's had a little bit of trouble in the playoffs. It was very possible for them to possibly overlook Kentucky State because, a lot of the discussion was Kentucky State was, yes, they were the third best team in the SIAC, but the gap between them and Benedict and Albany was pretty significant. But overall, I thought it was a pretty dang good game. Like I said, Sharpia played well. They ran the ball a little bit better than normal. I mean, 126 yards net. They usually average about 20 yards less than that. DeAndre Coleman had a big day, had 5 catches over 100 yards. That way they didn't have to rely on Keith Destisher as much. He kind of got to have a light work day. But yeah, overall it was a good win for Newberry. I felt like.
Yeah, I think I was interested to see, Ryan, like, they've had to come back so many times. Would they know how to get up big? Would they know how to put a team away? And I felt like they did that. I felt like they were able to put, Kentucky State was there, but they were able to handle that pressure and they were able to execute and put the game away. Chris, my question to you is, at what point do you think Newberry said, "Hey, we got this in the bag," or do you think it was always in doubt? Like, "Hey, Kentucky State's right there." I guess my question is, at what point do you felt like Newberry was able to really put that thing away, or do you think if it felt like to you that Kentucky State was just kind of hanging around ready to strike at any moment?
Well, I think it was the fourth quarter because, when we were talking last week, I mean, Newberry doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
And they turned the ball over. I mean, that in itself was a win. I mean, to
do it twice
that,
in the same game.
right. I mean, that's a 66% increase if we're doing the math.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, it's one of those things where, oh man, like we're only up 7, and I guess we probably need to do something just to like salt this away a little bit more. Kentucky State was just very scrappy in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way to really call it here, and that's what they do. That's what the thoroughbreds do. They shorten the field with turnovers, so it gave them life to get those opportunities because that's what thoroughbred football has been this year. And to not just get 1 but to get 2, it's like, oh my gosh, like we can actually win this game. And now you got an opponent that believes that they can win, they can come back and win. So I think that it took well into the third, going into the fourth quarter to put a little bit more distance there, and Newberry to not create any more turnovers, to salt it away. So I agree with Ryan. I think, like with Kentucky State, there was a lot of things that had to happen in order for them to win this game. Yeah. And some of those things happened to make it interesting. I think the final score, it doesn't tell the full story because it's not like this is a true like blowout. I mean, I feel pretty good about what Kentucky State was able to do in their first ever playoff appearance. I always have I have a common theory that I went against my own self in Super Regional 1. But the first time a team makes it after a very long hiatus or ever for HBCU, they don't win because they need that experience to build on that. And so, but what Kentucky State was able to do and to be competitive and it not be a blowout by any stretch, to me, that's a win for them. That's a nice consolation prize, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, they didn't. Sorry, Poe. They didn't go out there and get embarrassed or lose by 50 with the team not even playing their starting quarterback. Not to throw shade on anybody else that made the playoffs, but it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't embarrassing. They played hard. They played scrappy. I mean, there's a lot of good things for them to build off of, especially in a league that is, like we talked about last week, that is getting better, that is still very wide open. I mean, Albany's almost always going to be at the top. Benedict is seemingly going to be there. Yeah. And so especially now with the region expanding to 8 teams and all that, it's definitely stuff to build off of. There's nothing for them to be ashamed of. It was a good game.
And I was just going to mention, like, now this is 3 SIAC teams in 2 years that have won a playoff game with Miles,
which is huge.
Momentum, building momentum as a conference, right? Like doing all the things. And you made a great point, Chris. Like, were the lights going to be too bright for Kentucky State? A lot of times it doesn't matter what level it is, doesn't matter what team it is. Like sometimes that first time you get in the playoffs or that first time in a long time, are the lights too bright for you? And Kentucky State, they played a great football game. They came up a little bit short, but they played a great football game and they hung in there and competed with a very tough Newberry team.
Yeah.
So,
and one more thing that I would add that Ferg had mentioned, he talked about the fourth quarters when Newberry really, started to squeeze.
Yeah.
Newberry had the ball. Are you guys ready for this? 11 minutes and 42 seconds. That's like one of those like Army drives of, when they're going to have the ball for 20 plays, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get the football. Golly.
Yeah.
Well, big time plays in the fourth quarter, big time drives to put games away in the last two games. And great job for Newberry moving on. And they will play the West Florida Argos, who defeated North Greenville 43-19 last week, racking up 479 yards of offense, where the Argos scoring 43 points, kind of what we expected from them offensively. Then defensively shrunk the game for North Greenville, held them to 19 points, 313 yards offensively, and really kind of tightened that thing down, kind of, at least from what on my end, what I expected to see from West Florida, a team that, we thought, was early favorites to win Super Region 1 and slipped up, but kind of at least what I expected to see out of a West Florida team that we think is at the top of this Super Region, rather. Ryan, what was your takeaway as you kind of went back, looked at this thing and said, hey, is West Florida the real deal? Is this a team that we're going to be talking about playing for a Super Region championship?
Well, I think they definitely, somebody played the clip of us asking if they were bored. And I mean, that was for sure. And, the fact that we also talked about, them being a little bit one-dimensional. I mean, they ran the ball for 265 yards and held North Greenville to a net of 24. But we knew West Florida was good against the run. They did pretty well against the pass. I mean, I don't think 289 is bad. I mean, considering what they were giving up. But no, I think this was what we kind of came to expect out of West Florida. I mean, the game was a little bit close early. I think it was 15-7. I'm double checking at halftime.
It was 22.
Yeah. It was 15-7. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was no score after one, and then 15-7 at half. And I don't know about y'all, but I was kind of thinking, okay, this seems like one of those games where North Greenville is going to find a way to screw around and win it at the end. Like when West Florida has lost in the playoffs before, that's the vibe I was getting. And then third and fourth quarter, they just kept doubling them up. Marcus Stokes showed why he's a Harlan Hill candidate. Dude just kept making plays. They kept running the ball. I mean, Jay Sharp was great. TJ Lane added a touchdown late. I knew that West Florida could run the ball, but I was surprised that they were rushing for, 6 yards a clip against a North Greenville defense that I thought was pretty well. But this was the type of game to me, like you were saying, Poe, that kind of says, okay, regular season's done. We put that loss to Valdosta in the rearview mirror. We're just going to start stepping on necks from now on.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I didn't know what to expect. You looked at it first quarter, it's scoreless. Second quarter, it's tight. And you're saying, man, like this is a game that North Greenville, they thrive in that environment, right? Like it's just a tight slugfest. It's going to favor North Greenville if they get in that situation. And then I go back and check it a couple minutes later, and West Florida had really started to open that up. But Chris, did you think there at that point when it was 0-0 after one and it's tight there in the second quarter, were you sitting there saying, hey, hold on a minute now, North Greenville's got kind of that recipe, or were you just kind of waiting to see when does West Florida wake up?
Well, I was waiting to see what the third quarter response was going to be. And that told me everything I needed to know at that point. I said, well, I guess I won't be cashing in today. Try again another time. I think one thing that really stands out, yes, North Greenville only had rushed for less than 1 yard per carry, but a lot of that had to do with the sacks that West Florida got.
Six of them.
They couldn't protect Dylan Ramirez, and that turned into a real problem for them. West Florida made them one-dimensional, and that makes it a lot easier for them.
It does, and I think if you're West Florida, you came out the second half, like you said, Chris, you adjusted, you played well, and you're able to put this team away. You can't do that week in and week out, right? So when you look at this week's game, they're going to play Newberry. right? And you can't start slow against Newberry because you can't put yourself in that situation. The games at this point, just as we all know, get tougher and tougher. The opponents get tougher and tougher, and the margin for error gets smaller and smaller each week. And when I looked at this, guys, I looked at this stat comparison right here when we were putting this together for the show, and you sit there and you say, wow, okay, 10-1, 10-1. Okay, Newberry's been quiet about being 10-1, in my opinion. They've just kind of plugged along all year doing what they're doing, and West Florida has kind of had all of our attention. The offensive scoring, guys, isn't that far off. I mean, when you're looking at 32 points per game for Newberry and 39 for West Florida, you're like, man, that's a turnover. That's nothing right there. And then that defensive scoring is very similar at 23-20. I was very surprised when I put these two teams next to each other how similar the numbers actually were and how much closer this game might actually be. You know, I think perceptionally, you think West Florida, they've been up high rankings all year. Newberry's just kind of been quiet under the radar. Well, wait a minute. This thing's not going to be as maybe lopsided or one-sided as we thought. Ryan, what is your thoughts here? I mean, is this a West Florida walk in the park, or is Newberry going to have something to say about this one?
Well, I think you were talking about Newberry kind of going under the radar. I mean, it's kind of crazy that a team goes 10-1 and is under the radar. But I mean, if you look at some of the stuff, guys, I've been watching South Atlantic Conference football since my freshman year at Carson Newman, and this might have been the deepest that the conference ever was. I mean, they had 8 teams win at least 5 games. If you look at the KPI numbers, they were the only conference in the country that had 6 top 40 in the KPI, I believe it was. I mean, you look at your 6th place team was, Lenore Rhine, who beat Valdosta State. And so I think Newberry's got a chance in this one, especially if, they limit turnovers, which they've done all year. Reed Sharpia gets time to make plays. And we've talked about, now they didn't it this past week, we've talked about how West Florida can struggle a little bit against the pass. Newberry loves to pass the ball. I think there's a lot of things that could tip a little bit towards the scarlet and gray. I mean, I don't know if we're making picks right now, but this is one of those games I wouldn't be stunned if Newberry won, but maybe that's a little bit of the sack homer in me, but I also wouldn't be surprised if West Florida just came out and, just put the hammer to them just because, they're still ticked off from losing to Valdosta and not being able to finish undefeated.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, we are going to pick these games, so feel free to make your pick, I guess.
I'll be a little bit of a sack homer. I'm going to go with Newberry to pull the upset. Just for poops and grins. I think they've got a chance. They're playing with house money.
Yeah.
So
Chris, are you going to take Newberry like Ryan, or are you gonna take the favorite here, or the so-called favorite in West Florida?
I feel like I just I need to keep the mojo going at this point in the anti-West Florida column, Like
I forgot that you picked North Greenville last week, which wasn't a bad pick. I mean, let's be honest, we all thought they had a really good shot because they almost got them before.
Yeah, I think the thing that scares me about Newberry is, do they become one-dimensional, so one-dimensional that can cause problems if they end up having some 3-and-outs against the West Florida. That's what scares me.
Yeah.
I don't think that I feel confident feeling like they're not going to have, maybe they'll have like 1 turnover, but I'm not too scared about that. With West Florida, I mean, they are pretty pissed off the way that they're playing, but they still have some lulls, right? I mean, 57 at half. And so, they both got some big question marks here. But yes, I'm going to go Newberry for the upset. I mean, because I just feel like at this point, I might as well just keep it going, and pick against West Florida.
Well,
But I do respect them. I respect them.
as you drink out
Phenomenal
of your Valdosta,
logo.
as you're drinking out of your Valdosta cup, though. Just saying, putting that out there. Well, guys, I think that's some great points. I think when I look at this game, I think about where is West Florida susceptible, and that's in the pass. And Newberry can throw the football, they can move the football. They're not going to turn the ball over a whole heck of a lot. But to me, West Florida is a little bit more explosive on the offensive side of the ball. They're very explosive. They're very fast. They can score, and they can score in a hurry and in bunches. Defensively, I think their defense is going to have to come up with some stops. Maybe not turnovers, but they're going to have to come up with stops. They're going to have to force some 3-and-outs and get the ball back to their offense. That's going to be the key. It's can the defense get the 3-and-outs and get the stops and get the ball back to their offense. I'm going to take West Florida in this game, guys, because I think their offense is a little bit more explosive. I think this is going to be a tighter game than probably a lot of people think it's going to be. From the outside, but I think it's going to be a tight game. But I think West Florida has a little bit more explosive of an offense, and I think their defense is able to get those stops. I don't know that if Newberry gets behind, I don't know that they're going to be able to keep up with a West Florida if it turns into a track meet. So I'm going to take West Florida in this one, guys. All right, the other game of the weekend in Super Region 2 is the Benedict Albany State for what, the third time now.
Part 3.
Yeah, part 3. And you look at these teams, 11-1 Albany State, a 10-2 Benedict, and both of their losses come at Albany State Sands. Offensively, the Golden Rams scoring about 35 points a game compared to the Tigers 25. And defensively, they're holding opponents to about 13 points a game, whereas Benedict's holding them to about 17.5, 18 points per game. So a slight edge in the comparison for Albany State. I think my question for you, Chris, is how hard do you think it is for Benedict, or for Albany rather, to beat Benedict 3 times in a season? Or does it not matter because they have all the confidence coming into this one as Albany State?
Well, I think it matters. I think, to me, like, when I look at the first 2 games this season, it's crazy even saying that, like, Benedict has not led at all against Albany. So that really stands out to me. Albany is getting out to fast starts, but we know how the gap has been shrinking. Albany only won by 6, so it's not going to be easy. This is a team, an opponent that knows your tendencies, right? That knows what you want to do. Has found ways to slow you down, has plenty of tape on you. So it's definitely not going to be easy, but I think also, Albany has a lot more flexibility in how they can operate. They just can't have penalties that set them back. I think that kind of happened some against Valdosta, and they can't get into a bit of a shooting match. And I don't know if that really happens against a Benedict. That's not really their MO. So my pick is still Albany. But the lovely thing about this matchup is that a SIAC team is guaranteed to go into the next round. So hey, we're all winners.
There you go.
I like it. Ryan, do you think Benedict can upset the Golden Rams here to get to the regional final? Or
I think they can. On the flip one, if Benedict wins and Newberry, my other pick, wins, you've got a South Carolina regional final. If both of them lose, you've got an absolute heavyweight fight between Albany and West Florida. To me, when I was digging into the previous 2 matchups, what really stuck out to me was that the turnover margin wasn't really large. In the 2 games combined, Benedict's a -2 against Albany. But what stuck out to me, and one thing that if I'm the Tigers I'm looking at, is the second quarter. In their 2 matchups, Albany has outscored them, double checking my notes, 53-19 total. If you take out the second quarter of those games, it is 26-19 in favor of Albany. Albany outscored them 27-0 in the second quarter of those two games. So to me, the second quarter is going to be, I mean, obviously first, second, they're all important, but the second quarter seems to be where Benedict has had a major issue for whatever reason. I didn't watch the previous two matchups, so I'd be curious really what went on in those quarters for them to get smacked 27-0. I'm going to go with the Golden Rams to do it a third time, but I do think there's a lot of pressure on them, and I don't think Benedict has really any pressure. I mean, if you look at it, and here we go for KFerg's favorite Gladwin session, the random stats of the week. This is the first time that two HBCUs have played in the playoffs since Hampton and Albany in 1993. Albany has a chance to be the first HBCU to host a regional final since Winston-Salem did it in 2011 and 2012. Albany did it in 2010. And so to me, I almost wonder if all the pressure gets to them of, possibly setting those, I don't know if they're called records, and do they get a little cocky with the fact that they've beaten them twice already? I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. I can see that creeping in a little bit, but I'm going to take the Golden Rams in this one. I think Benedict's playing with house money, but I think Albany wins by 10-14.
I'll be honest with you. I kind of look at this game and I go back and forth. I kind of look at it like, all right, I think it's hard as heck to beat a team 3 times in one season. It's damn near impossible. You know those teams inside and out. You know their tendencies. I think you said it earlier, Ryan. What are they playing the third time? Not just the third time this season, but like the third time in the last 6 weeks. So it's
something like that.
So you know their tendencies. You know their scouting report. You know what they're going to do on third down, third and long, third and short. You know all those tendencies, you know the personnel, you know what you're going to do. So it's how do you scheme it just a little bit differently to show them something that they haven't seen. And if you're Albany, I think to me, you're the number one, you're the heavyweight in this super region right now. Like you have to live up to those expectations. You talked about the weight of those expectations, guys, but I think you have to live up to those expectations. I think you have to play at that level. You want to be the best, you have to play like you're the best. And I think you have to be able to put this team away. I think Benedict, they beat Wingate, but that was, for lack of a better term, a Hail Mary play that they won on. You can't survive on plays like that. You have to be able to put teams away. You have to be able to go beat good teams. Can they do that this week? Absolutely they can. Will they? Probably. I'm going to take Albany State because I'm very intrigued at what they can do. I'm very intrigued at what could potentially come down the road in a West Florida Albany kind of regional final. I'm very intrigued at a matchup and what that would provide, but you got to get through this round, right? But I think if you're Albany, you've put a season's worth of effort in this thing, and you got to put them away, and you got to not let that pressure, not let that outside noise, and they have to do some things a little bit different, right? They can't do the same thing they've done the last two, otherwise Benedict will win this football game. They have to be a little bit different. They have to be a little creative schematically, show some different things, put some players in some different spots that are going to help help create some advantages, but also kind of keep Benedict off kilter, off sequence a little bit. So I think that's the keys for Albany. I think this game's going to be a tight game. It may come down to who has the football last in one of those type of scenarios. So exciting game here nonetheless.
Yeah. But we all picked Albany to win.
Yes. So we're all
okay. So
yeah.
So when Benedict wins, I wear a size XL. You send me the shirt when you win, and I'll wear it on the show next week. So,
absolutely. So, well, we just gave him the kiss of death with all three of us taking all.
Yeah,
but it's all good, guys. All right. So we're getting close to an hour here, guys. Let's wanted to kind of recap every super region and all the games that we can expect. If you're tuning into this, you're probably focused on Super Region 2, or a majority of your focus is, but I want you guys to take a look at just what's going on across the country that hopefully shapes the picture of what we'll see here in a couple weeks in the national championship. So Assumption will play Kutztown in Super Region 1, and then we also have California will match up against Frostburg here in Super Region 2. So some interesting matchups. The only seeded team, you made a point to this earlier, Ryan, the only seeded team that advanced out of week 1 was Kutztown in Super Region 1. So some exciting matchups, some different matchups here on this side of the bracket. And we got Super Region 2, which we just talked about, guys. Super Region 3, very interesting. Kind of another fun fact Ryan gave us before the show. Super Region 2 and Super Region 3 were the only regions that had 3 seeded teams make it to the second round, and this was the other Super Region, Super Region 3. So Ashland defeated Minnesota Duluth, and Ferris State defeated Northwood. So we have a Ferris State-Ashland 1-4 matchup here in Super Region 3, and then Indy handled Truman State, along with Minnesota State knocking off the 2 seed in Findlay. So an Indy-Minnesota State matchup, very intriguing here in Super Region 3. I think these are some pretty interesting matchups as we look at this one. And then in Super Region 4, Pitt State advanced past Chadron State, and then Harding took care of business against Northwest Missouri. So Pitt State Harding is a pretty interesting matchup there. UTPB knocked off Pueblo, the 3 seed in that super region, and then Western Colorado handled Central Washington, the 2 seed in the region. So UTPB Western Colorado matchup there in Super Region 4. So very, across the country, guys, some just exciting matchups as we take a look at this. I think we're going to see some really good football, and it's some intriguing matchups that we don't get to see and haven't seen the last couple of years.
One thing, go ahead, Ferg. I'll let you go.
I just want to say real briefly, you have to feel good if you're West Florida because you're the only 2 seed that won in the tournament.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. The one thing I wanted to say, and I know it's not our region, I posted this on Twitter yesterday, I think, and I saw this number, and I don't think it gets enough love. And I think it's because of their system. But Cole Keelan at Harding is 48-4 as a starting quarterback. If Harding wins all the remaining games, wins the national championships, he's going to end up being the winningest quarterback in the history of D2 football.
Wow. That's pretty crazy.
I mean,
when you think
and I know he doesn't put up all these insane numbers, but I mean the dude's driving the wagon.
Yeah,
doesn't have to. Yeah,
that winning. Winning's not all about numbers, right? It's about wins. And he finds a way to make that happen. So
yeah, I saw that this week. I think it was Harding's sports information guys who were they're some of the best. Put it out there that 48-4. That's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. But take that to the bank any day of the week, right?
Yep.
Well, Ryan, you hit on it. Check us out on Twitter at D2KFerg, at RC Gladwin64, and at Coach Jay Palizzi. You can find out all of our information on there, like you talked about. Great place to kind of hone in on Super Region 2, not just D2 football, but in particular Super Region 2. So, guys, exciting week 1 of the playoffs. I think we were primed up for some really good matchups here going into week 2. Give me your parting thoughts here as we get ready for some holiday weekend football, which I think is going to be phenomenal. But go ahead, give me some takeaways here as we get ready for this week. KFerg, we'll start with you, buddy.
1, we play this show on Thanksgiving. If you need to get away, you need to tell them that you need to watch some important stuff, and you put this on. Number 2, it's an amazing weekend for the SIAC in particular. And so really excited for them and what they've been able to accomplish in over the last couple of years, but especially now. Man, West Florida Newberry is a bit of a heavyweight fight. And really looking forward to that.
Ryan, what are you excited about? What are your takeaways as we come out of that? But what are you excited about as we go into this weekend, and some things you think we can expect to see?
I'm excited to see some very good quarterback play, especially in the Newberry and the West Florida game. You've got 2 dudes who were earlier today named to the Harlan Hill nominee list. And I believe Isaiah Knowles at Albany State was as well. And we don't mean that as any pushback on the guys making plays down there at Benedict. I already gave my guy some love earlier in the week. I think it's going to be just some really good games. I think that basically both games are going to come down to, like we talked about before, what team can make their opponent do stuff that they're not comfortable doing.
Yeah.
Is Benedict gonna, if they get down a score or two, or is it going to be, oh, yeah, crap, here we go again? How's Albany going to respond? Because they're the ones playing with all the pressure. Benedict's got nothing to lose. I mean, and Albany's going to keep in the back of their mind, hey, we'll throw a 96-yard lateral across the field on you if you let me. And then in the other game, I think West Florida's playing with a lot more pressure than I think we kind of talked about because, being the Gulf South, being, ranked in the top 5 basically all season. Newberry's playing with house money too. So I think it's going to be 2 really good football games. And we're just going to have to see who survives the cage match to make it to the regional final.
Yeah, I think you guys make some really, really great points. I think the other thing for me that I take away is this is a special week to play football. I think when you put the pads on, you go into camp in August, and you put in all that summer workouts and the spring conditioning and weights and all that type of stuff. Your goal is to be playing a football game on Thanksgiving weekend. When a lot of everybody is with their families and away from their teams, away from school, there's only a select group of people that get the opportunity to go to practice on Thanksgiving, get to play on Thanksgiving weekend. It's a special thing to do that. So congratulations to all the teams across all divisions that are still playing on this weekend. It's a huge honor and it's something to be really proud of. So really excited for that. And I would say to our fans, if you have the opportunity to go check out a game, go check them out. Stadiums are empty a lot of times this year because of the holiday. Students aren't on campus and people are not in town. So if you have the opportunity to go check out a game, it'll mean a lot to the people that are out there playing on those fields. But I think it's going to be some great football this weekend, not just Super Region 2 guys, but in all of our Super Regions. I think we've got some really intriguing matchups, some big-time heavyweight matchups, and I'm just excited for really good football. I think you hit the nail on the head, some really good quarterback play. I think those guys are going to have to step up and kind of will. A couple guys are going to have to will their teams to victory this week. But overall, just really excited for some really good football, really excited for what this weekend has in store for us. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, guys. I think it's going to be a great weekend of football. So with that, guys, we are going to send it off. For KFerg and Ryan Gladwin, I'm Coach Poe. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving and enjoy week 2 of the Division II football playoffs here. Have a great weekend and happy Thanksgiving.